Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the debut record from Ad Infinitum, Chapter 1, Monarchy. Out April 3rd on Napalm Records. The album has 15 tracks, 61 minutes in length. I'm absolutely blown away by this record. Based on the singles, my expectations were high. And based on Melissa and the guys in the band, I really had high expectations for this album. I thought this album was going to be something special. I was not expecting it to be this good. This is not just a great album. This is a magnificent record front to back. Melissa did a great job surrounding herself with musicians that understood and shared her vision for the album, for the sound, for the delivery, for the structure. That to me was very important in order for the album to sound this good and to have this big of an impact as far as the sound is concerned. You're looking at an album that has 15 songs and it's 1 hour long. You honestly don't feel the time going by. And that to me speaks not only to the quality of the tracks, but also to the overall structure of the album. If you have an album that's this long with these many songs, it's very easy for a listener to get bored, to feel disconnected from the record. This album is the complete opposite. You get yourself involved with the record with the first song, you don't notice the time going by until the album is over. It has great fluidity, it has great dynamic. They did an amazing job alternating faster tracks with faster tempos, with greater momentums, with slower songs. More methodic, a little bit darker at times, sometimes melodic, but in a slower way and in a different aspect. And they did a great job alternating these different style of tracks to give the record this roller coaster ride feel from the first to the last song. Sometimes when you have an album that is this dynamic, that has this feel of being a roller coaster, it starts to feel a little bit disconnected. Specifically for a record with 15 tracks, it's really easy for yourself to get lost in it and start to feel like the songs are not taking you on a journey or are not connected enough. And this album to me doesn't have that problem. And there's a lot of elements at play that allow the album not to have that issue. One of them is that the album, while not being a concept album, there is a common thread as far as the themes of the songs go. So that connects all of these tracks together. So you have that one element that really makes the album feel more concise, more put together, even though each song has a very individual structure. Each song is very different from each other. Each song has that same roller coaster vibe to it. So the structure of the individual songs give you this up and down feel within the song, and then when you put them all 15 together, you have that same feel then transported into the album. Very cool idea, very cool concept in order to create a record that has the same dynamic in two different places and one complements the other, or one forces the other to be in the same pattern, to have the same feel and the same pattern. Another element that I liked about this album is definitely the sound. The overall blend of symphonic metal with power metal really works well. It has a great dynamic, has a great life. It really brings a sound that's very unique, that has great presence, that really expands. It becomes a lot bigger, cinematic at times. You really feel sometimes that when you're listening to this album that you're listening to a movie score. It has that kind of magnetism to it. The tracks really expand, really feel bigger, larger, and even the ones that are not as fluid, the ones that don't have that kind of volume, the ones that are not that don't have that fast tempo to it, the ones that are more of a ballad type, they're more methodic in their approach, even those sound magnificent. Even those have changes, internal changes to the sound that really allows these two different elements of power metal and symphonic metal to come together and create really lively tracks. I think that's the best way to describe this album. The other aspect is the vocals. You really have to talk about the vocals because the vocal tracks on this album are insane. I mean, I was not expecting anything less from Melissa, and one of the things that surprised me on the positive was that they didn't go with too many harsh vocals. You don't need to. Melissa has a great voice, incredible range. You really don't need to start putting too many harsh vocals on an album that has this kind of sound, this kind of magnetizing appeal to it. I think, in my opinion, it would take a little bit away from the record, and it would definitely take a little bit away from her voice and what she can do with it. So I'm really happy to say that they used harsh vocals throughout the record on a few tracks, not every track, far from every track, really on a few tracks. And the way they did it, they really sprinkled them in order to get some more context to the lyrics, in order to give some more life to the song, in order to give a spice to the tracks. And then to me, that was very important. They didn't fall in love with those harsh vocals. They just really used them sporadically throughout the album. And that allowed Melissa to just use her range, use her voice to really tell the story of the songs, to really bring the lyrics to life, and really give a lot of melody to the record, because you have a lot of melody from a sound perspective, but her voice brings a lot of melody from a vocal perspective. They did a few things here and there as far as adding some layers to the vocals, but not a lot. It's really Melissa on the driving seat, taking this journey and taking you on this journey with this record. She really commands notice, and she really demands attention throughout this album. So they didn't tinker too much with her voice. They didn't do too much. In my opinion, that's always a smart move when you have a vocalist as talented as she is. Allow her to just do her thing. Allow her to use her voice, go anywhere she wants to go with it. And once again, not using too many harsh vocals, in my opinion, was a winning formula for this specific album, for this specific sound. Perhaps if we're talking about a different style approach, it would be a different story. But for an album that has this kind of sound, sometimes almost feeling like I said, a movie score or like a soundtrack from a Disney movie, you really don't need too many harsh vocals in there. You need some in some tracks, depending on the lyrics and on the style of the song. But overall, you really just need her to do her thing with her voice and let her command the stage. Overall, I gotta say, this album, in my opinion, within this genre, is definitely going to be one of the best albums of 2020. I have no doubts about it. This album absolutely blew me away across all measurable parameters. There's nothing that I can say about this album that I would have changed. There's nothing I can say about this album that doesn't fit there or that doesn't belong there. This album is as close to a perfect record as you'll come. And when you look at an album that it's within this genre of symphonic power metal, I hate to put a genre to this record, because to be honest with you, there's even some other elements outside of that genre that they incorporated into the album. So it's an album that's really hard for you to define as far as the genre is concerned. But if I have a gun to my head, I would go with symphonic power metal. And when you have a genre like that, with so many moving pieces, sometimes it's hard for you to get lost, and it's hard for you to allow the album to kind of get away from you. This album is just perfect on all senses. Lyrics, vocals, guitars, drums. The drums bring a lot of heaviness to this album, but they're always counterbalanced with the symphonic elements to balance out the record so that it doesn't feel, some tracks don't feel too top heavy. But overall, this album is really magnificent, really well put together, really well produced, really well mixed. You don't feel at any point in time that one element is over the top of the other. And like I said, when you talk about a specific genre like this, everything needs to be at the right place at the right time with the right volume, with the right mixing, because one thing out of whack and it destroys the record completely. This is a record that has to have the perfect sound in order to be able to be delivered perfectly to the listener, and in my opinion, they did that with this album. As far as songs are concerned, I want to start off with Infected Monarchy. That's the opening track of the album, and to me, after listening to the whole album, this is the perfect opening track, because it kind of gives you a glimpse of what the whole record is going to have to offer as far as style and sound of songs. This one has a little bit of a cinematic vibe to it, specifically from the keyboard opening, and then that keyboard melody kind of migrates into the song and it becomes there a little bit in the background. It's never in the forefront too much, it's never one of the main driving forces of the track, but it's definitely there throughout the song, more present at the opening, not as much throughout. But I really like that. It gives the song a very cinematic vibe, and it almost allows the song to feel at points like a Disney soundtrack, just with a heavier sound, because the drums and guitars on this song have a little bit more of a bite to it, so it feels like a Disney classic with a heavy metal twist to it. The chorus is magnificent. It slows down the song a little bit, but it allows the song to then build up itself, so it has that great potential into it. It has a great dynamic built into the chorus that I really like. A song that really relies on how heavy the drums are. I said this before, this song has really heavy drums, and I really like the heaviness that the drums have, but they're always balanced out with the symphonic elements. And this is something that's true throughout the record. Perhaps on this song a little bit more. This is one of the ones that has a little bit more of a heavier bite. Not the only one, but one of those that definitely has a little bit more of a heavier bite. And in those songs, it's really noticeable how the symphonic elements take away a little bit of the heaviness to balance it out with melody in order to create a more overall balanced track. The vocals from Melissa on this song are incredible. She gives life to the lyrics, and she creates the perfect cinematic track to open up the album. I couldn't think of a better song, because like I said, it really has the characteristics that you're going to find on every single track from this point forward. Next, Fire and Ice, one of those ballads that you don't know what to say. I mean, this ballad is just incredible. This song has a great mixture of symphonic elements and guitar melodies. While in the first one that I mentioned was more the symphonic elements counterbalancing the heaviness of the drums, in this one I felt that it was more not of a matter of counterbalancing, was just these two worlds coming together in order to provide a very unique sound, a very unique approach to this specific song, and I really like that. It has some layers to it, specifically in the chorus. It really feels layered, and then it alternates itself with more stripped down moments in the verses. This is a song of ups and downs, of peaks and valleys. You have very dynamic, very interesting, very hooky and melodic choruses, more impactful, more filled with sound, and then you have more stripped down, clean verses that allow the song to have these abrupt changes from one to the other, with these great momentums going from one to the other. That to me allows the song to have a great fluidity, and it's important because it creates a sense of moving forward at a stop and go kind of feel. Melissa's vocals on this song are phenomenal. She's able to really bring to life the emotional baggage that the lyrics have. This is a song that, in my opinion, has there's some substance into those lyrics, and in the way she delivers those lyrics really brings them to life, and it really allows the listener to connect with them. It's a song that has that really magnificent approach between the mixture of ups and downs, and then how she changes ever so slightly her delivery between the verses and the chorus. Last, Demons. The drums are one of the heavier presences on this song, definitely one of the main driving forces. I think, in my opinion, in this track, the drums and the vocals are the two alternating, switching seats between the passenger and the driver of the song. The two are the main condiments of this track. The symphonic elements really balance out perfectly, in my opinion. They balance out with a more heavier side of the track, with by giving it a little bit more melody, so making the overall sound heavy but melodic at the same time. There's a real perfect balance between those two worlds. This song uses some harsh vocals, very little. It just really sprinkles of harsh vocals, and it works well in this song, because when you have a song that has heaviness and you have melody trying to overshadow that heaviness, and you want to create this counteraction between those two elements, using some harsh vocals really emphasize the heaviness of the song without having to go really heavy on the sound. You're adding a heavy element that's not sound related as the vocals, but it adds to the overall feel of heaviness that the track has. To me, this was a perfect use of harsh vocals, and it works really well with a song like this. Overall, to me, this track really achieves the perfect balance. It has a great tempo, it has a perfect balance between heaviness and melody, and then using some narrator style vocals, really, it was really different, and I liked it, because when you're telling a story and you go into that style of vocals, almost like spoken word, a narrator, it really changes everything about the song. It changes the dynamic of the song, it changes how you approach the song, it changes how you consume the song, and in my opinion, using that on this song really elevated the track. It made it feel like a story was being told, and it was, and it allows you to connect with that story and allows you to get gripped into that story. And Melissa's voice is absolutely phenomenal. The way the vocals come across, so methodic, so simple in its approach, but still filled with melody and emotion. To me, that was the other key point, because when you're doing that style of vocals on a track, almost to create a bridge between the two portions of the song, you really need to bring some emotion into it. You need to reflect the emotion of the lyrics into your delivery, and she does that on this track. Alright guys, this is it. This is Ad Infinitum, Chapter 1, Monarchy, out April 3rd on Napalm Records. Like I said, within this genre, one of the top albums of 2020, perhaps in any genre, one of the top albums of 2020. Absolutely magnificent work from Melissa and the guys on the band. This album is absolutely nothing less than phenomenal. Go pick it up if you haven't. But if you haven't, or if you have, and you have some thoughts, some comments, use the comment section below. Let me know what you're thinking. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.